Warning, DC and RMD contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue to listen.
Awesome. Oh, sorry. That's your signal. That means we have to go now.
Superman, thank God. I mean, the lights were on out here.
Superman's bad.
Destroy Superman.
Superman.
All right, hello, welcome everyone to DC and RMD. I am Michael Flores, your host. You can find this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search DC on RMD. You can also find our DC exclusive content where we cover all types of different things besides just Superman Lois. Just search only DC and RMD, not DC on RMD. Let me start over. Jesus Christ, I completely fucked up. Take two. Welcome, everyone, to DC and RMD, the Superman Lois edition. I am Michael, your host, and in the studio today is Steve and David. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
All right, that was a rough start.
It's okay. We had Gus in there.
Yes.
I heard Gus.
We heard Gus.
Listen, if we don't eventually get Gus Gorman in live action again, then the writers of Superman and Lois, they're just not trying.
Yeah,
No.
they could hire that. What's his name? The guy that played
Chris Hart.
Lando.
Let's have Chris Hart play.
No,
you
Gorman.
You could probably have Chris Hart.
Chris Hart. Oh, you're talking, Steve.
I'm talking Childish Gambino. What's
Yeah.
his name?
Oh,
His government name? I don't know.
I forgot his name.
But he should play Gus Gorman.
I can see that.
I can see that. That'd be actually pretty good.
Yeah. All right. So we really jumped to conclusions
Oh my God, yeah.
in a way that I don't think we've ever done before. In fact, we make fun of people that do what we
just
did.
We got caught slipping.
Yeah, we definitely became ultra fanboy nerds. We got our panties all in a bunch. We were getting ready to jump ship. But I did say, to be fair to us, I did say, let's take a beat. I don't want to say the sky's falling yet, but there are some red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, this episode came out, and I feel, in my opinion, and I'm very anxious to see what you guys say, I feel like we bounced back.
Yeah.
I feel like this was a decent episode.
Easily,
Yes.
yeah. Because, like, again, this series finds ways of subverting everyone's expectations. Like, you expect them to go one way because I don't know if it's because, as DC fans, we are beaten by
That's what it is.
pretty much
We're
everything.
jaded.
We're jaded.
We're ready.
And then all of a sudden, Superman Lois comes along and gives us stories that basically we don't even expect.
They gave us hope.
They gave us hope.
And with that second episode, I thought I was losing hope for a second.
You thought you saw
But-
Radioactive Man.
No, I felt like last episode was like when Superman got all loaded on whiskey and
Let's relax a little.
and nicotine infused kryptonite.
Dude, I still laughed at that one.
And-
when he
and
says,
this-
"Oh, relax a little."
This episode, he bounced back and whooped his own ass, and I think we're back in the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, we couldn't be more wrong. I mean, seemingly about all of the Sarah stuff, as well as the villain scenario.
The villain scenario. Oh my God, dude. I was so angry at myself when it happened because I was really worried. And then also when the reveal happens, I'm like going, why did I not see this?
Yeah.
What did I miss?
You of all people, with what they're piecing together from what I was reading online of the different points in recent history of things they're piecing together to create this incarnation, I figured that you should have had your finger on the pulse of that.
Oh my God.
David dropped the ball, but
I dropped the ball.
we'll get to that in a second. So the clarification of this episode doesn't nullify the inferior writing of the last episode because it was a great episode. However, we can say that retrospectively, the episodes seem to purposely be designed in a way to subvert our expectations. Even in this episode, they wrote a scene for Lois that was a blatant attempt to fuck with us where she says, well, she actually uses the words doomsday.
Yes.
They were holding us hostage all the way through the very final moments of this episode. And the villain, ends up being Bizarro Superman.
Ta-da.
Now, that is the villain that was in the mine. He isn't. I don't think he's gonna be the villain.
No.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Dave. I mean, more often than not, Bizarro Superman tends to be an anti-hero as opposed to a villain.
He does, because like honestly, Bizarro was created kind of like as a joke character. You got to remember that he was created back in 1958 to be in a title for Superboy. And it was supposed to be kind of like a jokey type of character that was the opposite of Superman. He'd do silly things. He'd talk in reverse.
Yeah, he talks like a baby.
It wasn't until like
Didn't he fly in reverse like Powdered Toast
yes,
Man?
yeah. If you read some of those old Superboy comics with Bizarro,
It's not good.
it's silly.
Yeah.
But like the last couple of years, honestly, the last like 10 years, the character Bizarro has gone through a major overhaul to the point where when they did the reveal for Bizarro, I was really hoping that it's the Bizarro that we know from the past 10 years, because I was more psyched knowing
Well,
that.
hold on.
it
The
might-
last 10 years, you mean in comics?
in comics, because that Bizarro is more exciting and more interesting to me than Doomsday, because Doomsday is like the simple moment in Superman's life.
Right.
It's a major milestone moment, right? But Bizarro, the last 10 years, has become like almost like a dynamic character.
I want to be so. I have a hypothesis, but I want to be very careful of not jumping to more conclusions like we did before.
No,
And
theories are fine. Just, what we did last week, we threw
Oh,
threw a
yeah.
tantrum.
We threw a tantrum.
But and I don't want to take credit for this because I was reading some various articles across different websites and blogosphere sites, and we got to remember that while this show is pretty detached from the Arrowverse as a whole, we saw Diggle, but that doesn't mean that he's the Diggle we know.
Right.
Now, they acted like they knew each other, but that doesn't mean shit. So what we got to remember is one of the key pieces to the last few episodes is Clark is having these visions, right? And in these moments where he can't control what's happening. And so he's clearly connected to this other being in some way.
Yeah.
And we got to remember that we did get this Superman from a Crisis crossover event.
Yes.
And we don't know yet if what came out of that mine is, while his S may be backwards, he could just be another Superman from another verse.
Yeah.
And that's why they're connected.
Yeah. So you're thinking they're giving us a variation of Bizarro Superman. They're going to make...
I think it's plausible that
Yeah.
it's not just a straight Bizarro. It's
Which is what TV shows do all the time.
right.
Yeah.
Because
they-
even John Henry's Superman that he fought with and dealt with on
Was
his
different,
Earth
yeah.
was different and was more similar to what we saw with the evil Superman in the Crisis stuff.
That's true.
So it could just be an alternate universe Superman. Maybe it's from a backwards universe.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing because of that connection, because I don't believe they've ever been synced that way psychically, I guess.
No.
Right? In the comic books?
Not in the comics, no.
Yeah, so I have a feeling that they're going to connect the parallel universes to this.
Because outside of Barry and what they've done in The Flash from time to time, which hasn't been the same, we haven't had two beings really from different universes show up and go head to head against each other. We don't know what happens when that happens.
Well, it's also a possibility that because we can't just, the writers can only forget about John Henry's world for so long.
For so long, yeah.
We know nothing about what really went down on that planet after John Henry left. Natalie hasn't even filled in the blanks. Hey, you know what? While you were gone, I survived because A, B, C, D, E, and F. We don't even know how she survived. Why it took her so long to follow her father.
Exactly.
There's a story there.
There's a story
I have
there.
a feeling that world is going to be connected. Maybe not directly to Bizarro Superman, but there are going to be these connections now to these other universes, because there is a specific reason why they have chosen not to tell us what has happened on that planet. I mean, the last we saw Bad Superman from that planet was when he was chasing down John Henry in his Winnebago.
Yes.
In space or
And-
whatever he was doing to travel in time.
And you gotta also figure that the necklace around Bizarro has to play into something, because that's what caught my eye when you first
What if he just likes gold
see
chains?
It's Gold Chain S.
But
I'm gangsta Superman.
the first time that I saw it, I was like, okay, that has to play into something, and it probably is something tied to like what you're saying, Steve, where it's
Yeah.
a different.
Well,
verse.
she came here. Natalie came here from her verse in some way, shape, or form that really hasn't been fully fleshed out. There's nothing to say that he didn't come with her, follow her, or potentially.
Okay, so we're getting into some really geek territory. So I
Very.
want to go there, but give me a second, because you had a theory. You know, we should probably just get into it now. You had mentioned the Syndicate, Dave, during our pre-show.
Oh yeah,
Okay. What if, because Morgan Edge seemed to have, last episode seemed to have, he seemed to be aware of what was happening. When
Yes,
he
he did.
said, I forgot his exact verbiage, but he alluded to the fact that he was aware of what was happening. And he even told him, I'll see you soon. So he's aware of what his ultimate plan was on Earth. And we assume it was just about bringing back Kryptonian life via the Eradicator, right?
yes,
But what if there was multi-layers to this plan?
A contingency.
And what if this plan also included the Syndicate in some way? And what if the reason why he knows this, and he failed, right?
yes.
But we know there's a planet that didn't fail, and that's John Henry's world. What if that bad Superman is the beginning of the actual Syndicate, and that's what actually happened to that planet? That the Kryptonians taking over was stage one, bringing over the villains of the DC universe into that world as well as the Syndicate is phase two.
yes.
So there's a lot of things they can do, and that's why I like this show and what they do, because the other DC shows, sure, you can theorize, but you kind of see based on the writing style, the writing on the wall. With this show, the writers are so fucking careful with what they do, and they allow us to speculate because you can tell they have plans on top of plans.
And,
Yeah.
and they're really pulling a bunch of different puzzle pieces out of the box and putting together to keep us constantly hypothesizing and guessing and assuming things. But it's a hybrid. It's an amalgamation of all these different things and executed in the best possible way.
Well, think about it like this. I mean, last episode, we all hammered that basically we were like pretty much all on the same page, saying that we can see the ending from a mile away. And that's how we felt at the end of the episode, right?
Right.
And just to add to your point, Mike, that's very
We only
that's
saw,
very-
in reality, we only saw like 5
we only-
feet.
5 feet.
in front of us.
But like
Yeah.
it's very CW-ish. It's very, that's the type of writing you expect in, say, like Flash, where you
Yeah.
see basically the entire thing. just
Bobby
right in
can
front of
tell you the entire series and what's going to happen based on the opening 4 episodes, of The
episodes.
Flash
Yeah.
and Legends.
if that, and this one's not been that.
It's not
No.
like that.
And you know, my just to jump into it a little bit, my hypothesis is,
Yeah.
because I don't know anything about the Syndicate other than what you guys have briefly brought up in past episodes, but we really don't know who that woman is that's working at the mine. But she's got oversight over that mine, and she knew what was down there, and it could still be this crossover multiversal type thing. It could be Morgan Edge had seeds within seeds that he had sown.
Yeah.
But I, in the back of my mind, am sitting here thinking, who's bankrolling this chick? Is this how we get Luther? Was
Greatest-
Luther involved?
That's why-
The
in-
greatest criminal mastermind of our
Exactly.
time.
And
time.
honestly, with Bizarro showing up, and if, comic book readers
Because
who are
Lex
familiar
Lu-
with the last 10
Okay, yeah.
years, no, they changed the origin of Bizarro to be Luther created Bizarro.
Yeah, there's a connection there.
So, like, would this be the way that we actually find out? Maybe at the season finale, Luthor shows up.
And is it the Luthor that we expect to show up in the way of what's his name, John Cryer?
Yeah.
John Cryer, yeah.
I really hope they keep those separate, because that's a topic for
Yeah.
another time. Because there's a lot of things that were going down in the Supergirl season finale, and it just didn't make sense for Superman not to be involved in some way, unless they're not in the same universe.
But exactly,
and
Mike.
same thing with this show. Last season, where was Supergirl during all of these shenanigans?
Exactly. Where were any of these people, Mike?
Where's any of the
Yeah.
heroes? The only one that basically has showed up is Diggle.
Is Diggle.
That's
and he doesn't
why-
count.
And think about it this way too, is kind of like, if it was supposed to be John Diggle from the Arrowverse, the last time we saw John Diggle, he got a mysterious green box, and everyone on the CW has been speculating that Diggle will become the Green Lantern in the Arrowverse. It's obvious that basically this Diggle that showed up in last season
Has no green box.
has nothing to do with the Green Lantern. So
Okay, so there is a rumor that Diggle and his connection is going to be something related to Superman, and it has to do with Justice U. I'm not familiar with Justice U, but I guess Superman characters are a part of Justice U, and they're theorizing that Diggle will have a connection with the DOD, and that the Justice U will end up spinning off into a series with John Diggle. So I don't know the ins and outs of that, so let me do some research and then get back to people about that for our next show. Have you heard of Justice U, David? I think is relatively...
well, Justice U was just the supposed new CW show that's supposed to be coming out.
Okay, so it's not even based on a comic then?
Nope.
Okay, that's why I've never heard of it. Okay.
The only way,
So I don't feel that much of a DC loser then.
The only thing about Justice U was actually it was supposed to be tied with what's that new show, Naomi?
Yeah, please don't.
It's supposed to be tied to that.
Oh, God.
And it's going to be part of the Arrowverse. Everyone knows that.
They think it's going to be part of the Arrowverse, but the Arrowverse is dead.
You beat me to it. I was just going to say Arrowverse is dead.
Yeah.
And what little life is left of it is like a dead corpse.
And it would be silly of them to try to rejuvenate it when they have two shows that are not really connected to the Arrowverse. I guess you can say Crisis and all that, but technically Superman is its own show.
Yeah.
Stargirl is its own show. Those are the two top performing DC shows on the CW right now that are written very, very well, especially Stargirl. Do you really want to put that Arrowverse funk on two shows that are doing just fine without that nasty penis resting on his leg?
Couldn't we bring in Black Lantern or Black Lightning?
Black Lantern?
How's he doing? Black Lightning.
Oh yeah, everyone seems to have forgotten
No.
that show.
You know what was the death sentence of that show? Was the Crisis.
Yes.
Bring it into the Arrowverse, put the Arrow dirty penis all over it.
That's not a wrong assessment.
Well, I did find something interesting, Mike,
Okay.
about Justice U. It's actually I got it off an article that explains that David Ramsey to star in Justice U drama for CW. And there's an excerpt here that's actually pretty interesting. Here's how the network describes Justice U. After spending years fighting alongside masked heroes, John Diggle embarks on a new mission to recruit 5 young metahumans
Yeah.
to live undercover as freshmen at a prestigious university. There he will oversee their education and train them to become the heroes of tomorrow.
this sounds stupid. It sounds like we need to do something because the Arrowverse is
Steve,
dead.
you have no idea how this could go really bad, because Justice U is executive produced by Arrowverse mastermind Greg Berlanti with Berlanti Productions.
Mastermind.
Partner Shara Schuster and TV president David Madden, also credited as EPs. Justice U is the second DC show that Berlanti is developing at the CW for 2022 and 2023 that will broadcast alongside Gotham Knights
Yeah, but listen.
on the network.
There is a article that was published, I want to say via Deadline, that both CBS and Warner Brothers, who owns the CW, are looking for buyers so they can sell the CW.
Right.
They don't want the CW anymore because they don't need it. Originally, a channel like this back in the old days, which was on the UHF channel, is technically what it's on still, except we all have cable now and digital services, so we don't even realize that it's a UHF channel, which is its own little band all alone. It used to be the UPN, then it was the WB, and now it's
CW.
the CW. And these channels worked really well for the bigger networks because they would dump smaller shows on them, or they would sell space to syndicators to put their own TV shows on these networks, and it was a great way to bring in some extra revenue and, bring in end of the year profits, right? To be above the red. Well, in today's TV landscape, all of these networks have streaming services. They no longer need TV channels like this.
Yes.
When you have Warner Brothers with HBO Max and CBS with Paramount Plus, where they're dumping all of their high-profile shows, and they have regular TV shows and movie studios, the CW has no place any longer, has no purpose. So CBS and Warner Brothers wants to sell it.
Yeah.
And
So if that happens, they lose the license. So these shows that they're going to put out are going to be short-lived. And the shows that are currently airing that are earning good ratings, they're probably going to move them over to HBO Max.
That's
what I would be thinking.
But Michael, Greg Berlanti is the greatest television mind of our time.
Yeah, that's such a fucking who wrote that? His own PR company?
No, I'm just saying. And look, in all fairness, the one thing that I actually really enjoy that he is a producer of is You on Netflix.
Yeah, he's not a bad producer. The CW content he puts out isn't great, but I believe he's in charge of. Isn't his name on Doom Patrol as well? And also, it's on Titans.
It's on
It
Titans.
is. It is.
So he does produce decent stuff.
It just makes you wonder what goes on over there at CW, man.
It's the CW. They don't care over there. That's all it is.
That's the
Yeah.
thing is like when it comes down to, unfortunately, the Arrowverse.
Listen, there's upscale bars and there's dive bars.
Yes. And Arrowverse tends to
There's
be a dive
Vegas
bar.
strip clubs, and then there's Southside Phoenix strip clubs. You know,
I guess. I mean,
there's always a yin and yang.
even the dive bars in Hell's Kitchen look like a good time.
All right, so let's get into this officially here. Besides the curveball that was last week, upon reflection, this bizarro Superman element does seem to be on par with our theories for last season. It does seem like they are sticking to that idea of bringing various versions of Superman into the shows like Steel, possibly working toward a Doomsday storyline eventually when they're ready for it.
Yeah.
But for now, there doesn't appear to be any Doomsday involved, and I feel okay because all of us on this show said it seems a little too early to bring in that type of name into a show. But if they give us 2 or 3 seasons of fleshing out the world of Superman and all of the potential replacements of Superman, and then they bring in Doomsday, it would feel better.
I agree 100%, but since I feel that they've sort of shot their wad by even putting a costume together that was close enough for Doomsday, and for Lois to have muttered the words Doomsday.
I think they're just fucking with us. Come on.
But once you've already done that, to then do it legit 2-3 seasons down the line or whatever it could be, I feel like that would be a mistake.
Well,
not if they use another fake word for another villain they allude to, and then this what happens to be.
But then
Doomsday.
but then they've shot their wad on these various Supermen that come as part of the reign of.
What if in 3 seasons, David and Steve, they say, "Hey, don't be Solar Man about this, Clark," and then suddenly Solar Man is not the villain; it's Doomsday. That would work.
Doomsday.
Oh my
God.
Don't be all Solar Man.
Oh, that's horrible.
Well, so is Solar Man.
Well, then the whole series just becomes a giant pun. Like,
then Gus Garman has to show up.
Yes.
All right, Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, but like, if you think about it, they did this last season with the very beginning when they did the Lex Luthor thing.
Yeah, they did. You're
and
right.
they said Captain Luthor, and everyone said, "Oh, it's Lex."
Yeah.
And then you find out, no, it's John Henry Irons. The tech was Luther's.
After this week's episode and the season we were given last year, I'm not going to be a baby anymore, and I'm not going to say there's something they can't do, because obviously they can. These groups are right. This particular group is pulling stuff off fairly well. So
they know this. I'll say this: they know the source material, and they know how to pick those puzzle pieces out and reconstruct them in a way to lead you to believe that you know what's coming as a fan, and then have no clue what's coming
And
as
then
a
just
fan.
change it up.
yeah. Now, I don't believe Bizarro Superman to be the main threat of the season, because I don't know if I describe him as a cosmological event as Superman's mother did. Maybe there's some link to the parallel universes, as you were saying, Steve. You know, maybe like a tear in the universe is causing that.
Yeah, maybe.
There are some interesting things that can be done with a character like this. You can explore identity, for example, self-identity, how it pertains to Superman, but even better, possibly the exploration of irony in or as it pertains to identity when it comes to Superman, because the character is designed around the idea of irony. The things he says, he means the opposite in a lot of ways. And if you look at this essay that I found online several months back, it has to do with irony. And if you just listen to this paragraph here, you can immediately see exactly what they could do if they want to go the intellectual route with a character like this. The use of irony and identity. Okay, so irony reflects a disparity between what one says and what one means, or in some cases, between what one appears to be and what one truly is. And the importance of being earnest, Oscar Wilde uses the irony and identity not only as a humorous plot device, but also a vehicle for commenting on morality, which is very heavily connected to Superman. The entire plot is a tissue of deceptions concerning both identity, who one is, and character, the values one lives by. So there's actually some pretty cool things that they can do with this character if they choose to go the route of the opposites, I guess, because we don't really know yet if they're going to do that, because we didn't really hear him talking a lot. Did he say any opposites yet?
No, he
Not
was
really.
speaking in a funky language, like I was telling you earlier,
Yeah.
Mike. It could just be reverse Kryptonian. It
What do
could
you
still
guys
be
want?
reverse.
What do you guys want as Superman fans? Are you picky about it? Do you not even have an opinion? Do you not care?
I don't want it to be campy.
Yeah. With Bizarro,
Which the irony aspect tends to be, the way they do it in the comic books, it tends to be a little silly.
tends to be silly, but that's why the key is creating that connection between Bizarro and Clark now.
Exactly.
Because, like, being able to give the character of Bizarro that connection means that we're getting a window into Clark's mind.
Yes.
And suddenly you start actually bringing up, like, the most powerful scenes, in my opinion, in this episode was the times when Clark was having issues dealing with trying to control his anger.
Oh yeah.
And if that is a window into Bizarro,
Yep.
that's essentially what's inside of Clark.
Can you imagine if they take what they worked on last season when it came to Superman and really dissecting his character from a very human lens as opposed to just the superhero? What we're getting is a very domesticated version of Superman, because we see him balancing the hero life with the family. And if they bring in the idea of identity and how he identifies, which also has been a part of various comic book runs, you know, which is the stronger dominant personality, the actual character of who he is, whether it be Clark or Kal-El, or the alias. And if you bring that in to the ideas of identity and who Superman is, or who he wants to identify as, or who or how he identifies, I think it could really work with a character like this. Because as I said, this character isn't going to be the main villain. What this character is going to do is going to be used to flesh out Clark. That's going to be his purpose more than anything.
And that's what it should be, because especially with the character of Bizarro, it's very... I'm not going to say that Bizarro's not a threatening presence. He really is when you take a look at it. He is top-tier villain when it comes to Superman. But when it comes to story purposes, there's not much you can go with Bizarro.
Isn't he more of an arch nemesis to Superman as opposed to a villain? Or would you say he's an outright villain? Because I don't know if I would.
I wouldn't even say he's a villain.
I wouldn't even say he's an arch nemesis so much as he's just a force that Superman has to
An obstacle?
deal. He's an obstacle.
He's an obstacle.
Okay. All
He's
right.
usually an obstacle, and it's not like every single time Bizarro shows up, he's not doing something malicious.
Right.
He's doing something that he thinks is correct.
Yes.
And
But that's because he's all backwards in the head.
yeah, and that was the beauties of like seeing the character progress throughout DC's history, was because then you created, Bizarro World, another multiverse where everyone was in Bizarro mode, and then to Bizarro, that's how you do things. You speak in reverse, or you do things that you're not supposed to, and it's okay.
And I feel like Superman, at least from the little bit that I've observed of their interactions, is there's a little bit of empathy and compassion at times from Superman towards him. Because he understands, like, he can't help it. He's just backwards.
And it's
So are the people from the South, I heard.
it kind of goes in line
Just
with
joking,
like,
people from the South. I love you.
aren't some of the people from the South your relatives?
Yes. My family's from the Virginia Hills, so
But the when it comes to Bizarro, he's never really been like, oh, I'm going to destroy Superman. No,
Right.
he shows up and basically he's kind of at a loss usually because he wants to act one way, but because he thinks the one way is right, it's obviously that's not the correct thing to do.
He's
And-
like the sling blade of Superman.
Oh my God, yeah. Pretty much. Because that was the beauties of, like, in the comics, as I alluded to earlier, the last 10 years of Bizarro's story has been really fantastic because they dived into the fact that he's not a malicious person. He just thinks that, in a lot of ways, like an autistic person, where they think one way and that's the only way they can think because that's how their brain can make it function.
Yeah, but I don't think he's like he's not like Rain Man. He's more
Steve
like,
is autistic and he's not
more like-
Bizarro.
he's more like he is like the dude from
He's
Sling Blade.
He's from Sling Blade.
He likes
Yeah.
he likes tater fries and
That's why it's going to be interesting because, like,
I actually-
even from the
that's why-
teaser trailer, I'm like kind of wondering what is the Bizarro, what is he going to be acting like?
And that's why I like this approach way better than what everybody thought we were getting, which was Doomsday, because you can't do these types of stories with Doomsday. Doomsday is just a big dick.
Oh yeah, he's
not an interesting character.
he's just
like
a murdering.
I like
creature.
the,
he's like an endgame boss.
I like the lead up to what or how he becomes so hateful. The idea that Kryptonian scientists kill him and recreate him and kill him and recreate him, and that's why he hates Kryptonians, because he has been murdered thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I mean, that's a cool story.
Yeah.
But how often do we really explore that aspect? It would take its own TV show to really get into the ins and outs and the psychology of that. So I think for the purposes of this show, Superman and Lois, Bizarro Superman, I feel works just fine. Now, David, are we going to get the Graveyard of Solitude? That's what I want to know, because
Graveyard of Solitude.
What?
that's his fortress.
It's his fortress.
And that's why I think he
Bizarro.
shows up. That's why I think he shows up at the end to the Fortress of Solitude, because the Fortress of Solitude is destroyed. And I have a feeling that's going to become his Graveyard of Solitude,
yeah.
because it's all in shambles and destroyed.
I thought about that too. It was kind of like I was like going, that's going to be his Graveyard of Solitude. Oh my God.
Yeah, and Superman's new Solitude is going to be Morgan Edge's place. That's kind of what I'm thinking they're going to do. Yeah. All right, so quick break here. Get more DC and RMD content by pledging to our Patreon page. This year we've got a lot of content planned, a wide variety of DC content planned for Patreon subscribers. So you don't want to miss out. Head over to patreon.com/RainmanDigital and pledge a minimum of $5 a month to gain access to our podcast and behind the scenes tiers, which today, right before this show, we recorded a pre-show where we talk very casually about Bizarro Superman and some other terrible storylines.
tidbits.
Yeah.
Tidbits.
So head over to patreon.com/RainmanDigital.
Digital.
Go to patreon.com/RainmanDigital and get more of what you like. So the Superman and Lois team are jumping into the family dynamics of the Lanes. This could be interesting. Now, is it just me, or are they being coy as fuck with this Lucy Lane stuff? Now, that's not a negative. I'm only asking because it seems very murky purposely.
It does.
They allude to certain things. Obviously, it's a given that Lucy was involved or is involved in some cult, and Lois was partially responsible for closing it down or exposing it through her journalism. But that's all we know, right? I haven't missed anything, correct?
No. I mean, the only thing that I'm kind of curious as to why they're playing so coy with the Lucy Lane reveal, because are they trying to set up a connection to Supergirl?
Please, no.
Because
I heard.
Lucy Lane was in Supergirl, and everyone's like, oh, is it going to be the Lucy Lane from Supergirl? And that's what they're leading up to.
It is. It is, for sure.
And
I don't know if it's the same version, but
Exactly.
Jenna Dewan, I believe is her name, according to TVLine.com.
Oh yeah,
Jenna is recurring, or what's the word I'm looking for?
reappearing.
Reappearing or returning as Lucy Lane in Superman and Lois.
But-
and she is a steamy,
Oh, yeah.
steamy woman.
So I went down the rabbit hole on her when she
Of course.
first popped up, because she used to be married to Channing Tatum.
Fuck that guy.
Well, yeah, and because they were both dancers.
Uh-huh.
And she's a professional dancer. She was on Dancing with the Stars.
The
if I'm not
ballet?
mistaken. No, like
Exotic.
pop dancing,
Oh.
like the pop stars that the
Stage
kids
dancing.
watch and listen to. But anyways, she's a complete
Fly Girls?
total smoke show. That woman.
Yeah, she's unstoppable. I can't take it.
But if you think about it, if they bring this Lucy Lane in and she's different from the Smallville Lucy
Mm-hmm.
Lane, then all of a sudden Steve's theory that he mentioned makes sense.
I don't think it's going to be
showing
the same.
different verses.
I don't think it's going to be the same because Morgan Edge was recast.
Exactly.
And are we supposed to believe that Morgan Edge and Supergirl the whole time was Tal Rowe? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
I
why
don't think this is going to be that version of Lucy Lane. Can she really fall down a rabbit hole of, a cult rabbit hole in 7 years?
that's why
To where her life is completely fallen apart. It's torn the family apart. It feels like we need more time.
Hold on.
Because she seemed like in Supergirl, she had a good head on her shoulders. She was part of the military. She was dating Jimmy Olsen, if I remember correctly, which she would never date that guy. Fuck him. But still.
Did you seriously just ask if in 7 years' time someone can fall victim to a cult?
Well, yeah, that quickly.
Have you not paid attention to what's been going on in this country the last 5 years?
I was
let
kinda
alone
Yeah, but
the same thing, Mike.
that's been a slow burn, though. It didn't just happen.
it didn't just happen, but it was amped up in less time. And also, let's not remember that there was
Let's not remember, or let's remember?
Let's remember, or not forget that there was a former CW actress who fell into a cult,
Yes.
and it didn't take her no 7 years.
That
to
was
fall.
like 20 years, though.
So what?
Smallville was like 20 years ago almost.
Right, but it didn't take her 20 years to become a full-fledged, person that's in a cult and branding people's privates.
Yeah.
She
Like-
was just waiting for someone to save her, okay?
Oh God!
Oh my God, Mike!
She
No,
was like,
no,
"Can
Mike!
you
No, don't go there! Don't go there, Mike!"
save me?"
So she had Stockholm syndrome, is what you're saying.
Oh, man. Okay, so I do think it's an interesting direction for Lois. It hinges, just like last season, on Lois's credibility and integrity as a journalist and her ability or lack of to juggle her domestic life and her responsibilities as a journalist. That's definitely something they're sticking to this season. That was a big part last year, especially with Beppo, I believe is her name,
Yes.
questioning her journalist integrity because of the secrets she keeps. And to be perfectly honest, that's a great storyline because she is compromised.
She is.
She is, and technically, if you go by the old school journalist ways of integrity, she probably shouldn't be a journalist anymore.
No.
Newsflash: 90% of journalists today shouldn't be fucking journalists.
Yes.
Well, think about-
that's why I said the old school idea.
Like Walter Cronkite and,
Right.
and Tom Brokaw and shit.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing that's really fascinating about this season when it comes to Lois is like the prior season, she was the rock that everyone leaned on.
Mm-hmm.
So she was like the strongest character. She was the alpha. We're saying like this was actually Lois's. It should be like Superman's in the background. Lois is the
and
hero.
Superman. Yeah.
Lois
Yeah.
is the hero. Beginning of this season, we finally got to see Lois almost vulnerable because now we know her weakness. We see her like having to deal with.
She don't have
things
weaknesses, David.
She does.
How
She
dare
doesn't
you.
want to deal with. She doesn't want to deal with.
her eyes kind of a weakness.
She doesn't want to deal with her own flesh and blood family when it compares to her boys and
Right.
Clark. Comparatively, she would rather be with them than her own blood family, which is her dad,
So-
her sister.
Well, you should be. I mean, if you don't want to be with your kids, I mean, you shouldn't have
Oh
kids.
no, yeah.
I'm
But
not having kids.
it's one of those things that this
That's why you got
season
snipped.
has showed that, like what you were saying about like Tyler having less range.
I didn't say that, Dave. Were you making
thought that
things
was
up?
I thought that was.
I said that off air.
Oh, that was off
This
air.
is going to be cut.
Cut that out. But it's
How dare you expose me?
with the whole Lois thing, we're getting to see that great range of Elizabeth. I hope
Tulloch.
Tulloch.
Yeah.
And-
So if she's not our rock anymore, as she was in season 1, then who's our rock?
who's the rock?
I think she will be still.
You think she's gonna-
Yeah, she's
I don't
because this is what's going to happen. I've seen this so many times with TV shows. Many times, the people that cast these actors, they have no idea. They may have a general idea of how good they are or how bad they are as performers, but it usually takes a season for the writing team to be like, "Oh shit."
we know
do
what they can do.
she
yeah.
can do whatever we give her, so let's fucking use her. And that's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see these highly emotional moments because the writers now know what she's capable of.
But Mike, you said it earlier though in the show. This show has a way of subverting our expectations.
You're not wrong.
Like
I hope, if nothing else, for her as an actress, that they give her more material to even broaden that range further.
I agree.
oh yeah.
And then I'm actually excited 3-5 years down the road, maybe less than, where her career goes because of this.
Because of this.
After
Yeah.
this, she's done with CW.
I hope.
Well, I would
feel,
hope so.
I feel like this is going to be her breakout series that will show people, fuck, this lady can act her ass off.
yeah, she should be on some deeper, darker
she
material.
probably will be.
Yeah.
I mean, from a writing perspective, the scenes in this episode between Lois and General Lane, and an acting perspective, were very naturalistic.
Yes.
There's a grounding element that's conveyed through the careful writing of their dialogue. They talk, which is how people should write episodes and dialogue between people. You write it as if they already know the conversation. Because if I were to bring something up to Steve that we talked about 2 days ago, I'm not going to fill him in with all the context that he already knows. And in this episode, when I said they were being coy purposely, it's because they're writing it in a way that feels more natural. They
Yes.
talk like two people would talk about something they both know about the topic
Yeah, but we
that they're
don't.
talking. Whereas we get many times the exposition dump with explanations that feel forced. So
Well, the amazing thing too was like, even with General Lane's acting, I forgot the actor's name. Just the looks he would give during those scenes with him and Lois, that tells a story.
yeah, it says more than words, and it adds more mystery to it. Yes, eventually we're going to need to know the details, and we will for sure learn these details. But for now, imagine if they were talking and they start telling us, "Oh, I can't believe Lucy joined that cult, and
Yes.
then you had to print that article, Lois, and then I had to run away because I got scared." That's what other shows would do. This show gives you an actual realistic conversation between two people who already know the topic they're discussing.
Yeah.
I loved it. I absolutely thought it was probably the best scene of the episode because those two actors are probably the best talent the show has. And there are good
Easily.
actors in this show.
Oh, easily. I think they're the top two. They're
Yeah.
definitely the top.
Well, they also have a long career behind them.
They've done other things.
They've
Yeah.
done other things, especially that dude, that
Murphy
General
or
Lane.
some, I forgot his name. But
I
yeah.
can't remember his name, but I mean, he spent years on Nip Tuck, just killing
Yes.
it on that show.
Yeah. So we already talked about Lucy Lane. She will be making an appearance soon. Hopefully she's all like just I hope she's all burned out. Like, you know that burnout look? Just like hot.
She's been taking needles in her arm?
No. That not that type. Just like
Oh.
just completely loaded on pills and just like frayed hair.
Like
Wow.
Just hot and
Like-
just strung out as fuck.
That's hot to you?
whiskey sours in the morning with
Well,
pills.
that's like a 7-year-old woman would be. What? Had me my whiskey sour. She doesn't have teeth anymore. I don't want that.
Oh.
I just want a hot like woman that had like a couple bad years, like 5-6 years of just kind of misery, and so she's super extra hot. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So switching gears to Sarah, since nobody's on board the burnout train with me.
Because that's a very odd thing to say.
Yeah,
That's hot.
I want my woman to have her shit together.
Exactly.
Yes, for relationship reasons, yes. I don't want to be in a relationship with a burnout, but a little freaky time, love making,
Freaky
if you
time.
will.
Sounds like you're
Yeah,
gonna
you
wake
can
up
get-
and be like, "Where's my wallet?"
It's that one night stand. It's the one night stand.
I have no
thing.
problem with that. For one, I don't have a wallet. Number two, I don't carry cash ever.
Okay.
So this isn't the 1980s.
So she's not someone you want to take back to your place.
Steve's idea of life is either the 1950s or the early to
No,
the
it's
early.
it's like the late 30s, early 40s. You see,
She might
Well,
steal my
you're-
wallet. You see,
Yeah, and you want to bring
you
back
dumb,
Dame.
you
man.
dumb broad.
that broad stole my wallet. You see,
All right, so let's get into this whole Sarah and Jordan scenario. As I said at the top of the show, we were way off.
Oh, dude, I'm happy we were way off.
Oh, yes. And I think Helbing and his writers, I think they were aware of what they were doing. They were fucking with us on purpose. I stand by my thoughts on the execution of last episode, but I can see behind the curtain now, and I'm not as stressed. So basically, last week was less about accommodating the CW demo, as we had theorized, and it was more about constructing a way to pose questions pertaining to trust.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that's going to be the main story for Jordan and Sarah this season, is the ideas of trust and how they set that up. When you look back retrospectively at that last episode, it now makes sense. And I'm glad. I like that way better. Using Sarah's adolescent indiscretion as a foundation, essentially, for what will probably become a more intricate plot for Jordan and Sarah's story.
Yeah,
he's going to end up. My theory is at some point. I don't think he's going to give it a year before he has that conversation with Clark.
Yeah, I don't.
I
so.
think he's going to slip up under whatever pressure in whatever moment, and then that's going to create some unnecessary.
He needs Jordan needs real fatherly advice. Forget that he's your son for a second and pretend he's one of the boys and be like, listen, anytime you want to tell her because you love her, just go in the bathroom and jerk one out. Okay? You'll see completely clear.
Oh, thank
okay?
God! I thought you were going to actually say, you kiss her and then she'll magically forget, and it's part of our powers.
It's part of our powers. Is
Listen, I'm going to teach you, son.
I'm going to teach you.
The magical kiss.
you just line your lips with roofie.
oh my
That's what really happened.
But I am really, I'm with you there, though, that basically I'm happy where they're going with the Jordan thing, because it feels more natural for Jordan to act the way he is. Because, like, last season, he was upset that his dad was keeping a secret. So the lesson to him in last season was don't keep secrets.
Yeah.
And then this episode, he's like trying to tell his dad, well, I shouldn't keep a secret then. I should tell her right away.
But he's not understanding the gravity of the situation and what that means for him
Exactly.
and for those that he cares about, particularly this girl that he allegedly loves. What I think.
I mean, he's all in too. He wants to marry her.
I know.
Jesus,
Yeah.
bro. I mean, I know she's got big boobs, but calm down. You have your whole entire life ahead of you.
Yeah,
But the thing
you'll
is
learn,
like,
kid.
But the thing is, it's so natural because like you feel that that's what a kid like that
We've
would
all
act.
been there.
We've all been there.
We've all been stupid like
Daddy,
that.
I love him.
So I think, though, I agree that we might have sidestepped or been misdirected into the CW.
It seems
Trope.
purposeful, yeah, or purposely done.
However, when Sarah opened up to her mom about what happened, and she said, I kissed a girl at camp, even her mom was like, oh. And it kind of gave it this inflection. Her tone was like, expand on that. Is my daughter maybe a little bi-curious, or maybe she is maybe gay? And so I'm not throwing it completely out of the realm of possibility that we might see something down the line. But what I thought was interesting, because we thought that Natalie might create a little bit of a love triangle dynamic. I'm starting to get the vibe that Jonathan's going to end up hooking up with Natalie.
Yeah. I got that vibe too, especially.
I'm not against that.
It was interesting. Like the last episode, the way Natalie was portrayed was completely different in this episode. She was a completely different character.
It was, and maybe she came back. She kind of ebb and flows, which is weird. I hope that makes sense down the line. But I'm not okay necessarily with them hooking up because
It's incest.
It's incest.
Technically.
They're half siblings.
Technically, I mean,
it's Brady
but
Bunch.
see, these are the hard-hitting questions, though, Steve. Is it incest if she's not really your sister because
it doesn't matter?
It's from another universe?
It doesn't matter.
Oh no, that he brings up a good point.
Is it true DNA, or does that DNA vibrate at a different
frequency?
Frequency.
I know mine vibrates out of me, but no. What you got to do is you got to take a sample of these two and compare them, and sequence the genomes. Because I'm telling you,
he's gonna be like, "Oh, you're not my sister. You're not my sister."
Lois on this Earth and the Lois on Natalie's Earth are still the same Lois. I bet you they got the same, Gattaca genome there.
You're not really my sister. You're kind of not like my sister. Kind of like my sister. Not like my sister.
They can tell themselves that until they start having their own Bizarro kids.
Exactly. That is how.
Maybe that's what happened. This
Sling
Bizarro
Blade.
Superman is actually from the future, where Jordan and Natalie finally sealed the deal.
And
or not Jordan, Jonathan.
Jonathan and Natalie, and Flash brought him here. I think we just wrote the show.
If we were the Flash writers, we definitely did, because that is an awful idea.
Yes, I think that's like an idea straight from Flash.
Now, I will say, John Henry Irons getting his suit like a boss.
Cool shot.
That was an awesome shot.
I haven't clapped while watching a TV show in a long time, and I was like, that is a fucking job well done.
I did a fist pump in the air. I'm not going to lie. And part of me was like...
I knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming as soon as he started running. And part of me was like, I feel like I'm getting a low-rent Iron Man shot. But then it cut to a side shot.
Yeah.
And I got Iron Man plus Neo bullet time.
And it was like, okay, they're adding things to it.
I loved
so it was really cool. It was a cool moment.
Yeah.
But the thing I cracked up at, he has this awesome moment, and Bizarro just like backhands him.
Yeah,
and he's out.
He shot him with God knows how many of those little rockets, and it didn't do it.
I think that was like the Kryptonian blaster that he was
it
using.
didn't do shit.
And it didn't do anything to Bizarro.
So
yeah, John Henry Irons again becoming just... Dude, every scene he's in as Steel is always good.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't mind seeing a series of Steel.
Listen, I'm with you, but let's just wait.
I
want to
see how far we get with this storyline of this Bizarro Doomsday Superman situation, in the hopes that they do have to team up. We do have to get the Eradicator. We do have to get these other metas, because there has to be a moment where John Henry has to get the S on his armor.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So Lana is officially running for mayor, and I don't know if I really care at this point.
Unfortunately.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah.
It feels weird saying that, because I really liked her last season. I still like her. I don't think she's a bad character, but they need to do something fairly quick for us to care about this storyline, because last season, everyone's storylines were connected in some way. This mayor thing is just an outlying story strand, a narrative strand that doesn't really connect to the bigger story. And that's not necessarily a good thing when you're talking about TV and you're dealing with ensemble cast. So they have to find a way to bring her narrative back to the main storyline. Otherwise, it's just going to feel weird.
Yeah, it seems almost like a dead end or a waste of energy. But I'm with that farmer that called her on her shit. Like, hey, you sold us all these bogus reverse mortgages.
Yeah,
we're all broke as hell because of your ass. You think I'm gonna vote for you now?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, Lana just can't get it right, can she? I mean,
Nope.
No.
she brought Morgan Edge in.
Look who she married, bro.
Well, that's what's that saying? A man's only as strong as a woman behind him. Well, a woman's only as strong as the man behind her as well. And she's got to kick Kyle. What's his name? What's
Kyle.
his fucking name?
Kyle.
Kyle. And what's this fucking not bar mitzvah?
Why is it every time we bring up Kyle, you seem to like ramp up in upsetness?
What did he say that they're gonna make Sarah celebrate the quinceanera?
Quinceanera.
I'm like, listen, you're not really Mexican, Kyle. You're a hillbilly. Quit pretending.
Well, isn't he? I mean,
He's
Yes.
supposed to be.
Yes,
He's supposed to be.
but there's no. The reason why that feels weird to me is because people that celebrate quinceaneras,
what is that? Can you explain? For
it's
our
what is it,
listeners that don't know?
15, 16-year-old? I believe when girls turn 15, 16 years old,
So
and
it's-
they're considered a woman.
Women.
It's when they're supposed to get their.
It's basically their idea of womanhood. This is
Yes.
when they become a woman. And regular run-of-the-mill Mexicans don't celebrate
celebrate
that.
it.
In order to celebrate something like that, you are hardcore into your culture, meaning you just came from the border.
Or you're just straight hillbilly, Mike. Or you're just straight hillbilly.
It sounds like it's just a holdover of a lot of different, very
just-
conservative religious beliefs and views.
It just doesn't fit with the way they live their life. There is no Mexican culture in that family, so it feels weird that suddenly he says, "Oh yeah, she's going to celebrate her quinceanera." I'm like, and I'm gonna make tamales. Like
In the middle of nowhere, fucking Kansas.
it just feels weird.
It's like Kyle's going, hey, I am Mexican. You know that,
Well,
right?
wait a minute. Yeah, and the good
It's
thing
like
is,
the CW's trying to remind us that they have a Mexican in the show, so that
Yes.
people don't complain about diversity. That's what it kind of feels
he'll
like.
be able
me.
to make killer tamales. They're surrounded by corn husks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
He's got plenty of stuff to wrap them in.
Oh,
Jesus Christ! Yeah, because that's what makes up a tamale. Only the corn husk.
I'm trying to help him here.
So Jonathan Kent's girlfriend is slinging drugs, kryptonite drugs.
Well-
That seems a little weird to me too. But
That kind of caught me off guard because I'm like going, number one, where did she get them? Because how do you get like Superman drugs?
Dude, apparently everybody's hanging out in that fucking mine,
Yeah.
just getting stuff out of it. So who
That's
knows?
why I'm thinking that basically that storyline's gonna reveal the major villain.
okay, so David, I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious about how you feel about this, and Steve too. But let's start with you first, Dave. Now, me personally, I'm not mad at this show. I love this show. However, I really hope that they don't fall into the same classic Superman tropes that we get all the time in our TV shows for Superman. Everyone has power, and it all stems from some type of kryptonite.
Yeah.
It is so fucking tired. And I'm hoping they don't do that. And it seems like they're doing that again this season.
I hope so too. Yeah.
Maybe they'll do it well by comparison to what we've seen.
Well, it depends. I
Maybe.
mean, if this is the story where the quote unquote kryptonite drugs are related is to Jonathan, and for me, it's why what's the point of the story?
Yeah.
If the point of the story is to basically drive home the fact that Jonathan in this season is battling the fact that he has no powers. He looks at his brother and he goes, well, you
Right.
got all the powers. And he looks at his dad, looks at his mom even, who basically is a superhero in herself last season. And then there's Jonathan, who just stands there and he feels like he's the odd man out. He feels like I don't bring anything to the table of the family. And that's why I'm 50-50 on the whole drug element, but I'm okay with it because of how they handled it in this episode. They tied it to the fact that Jonathan was really upset about being more or less thrown off the football team.
I think he's feeling insecure.
And that adds to the insecurity of
Yeah.
that character.
And I'm okay with that part because that was actually an interesting story for him last year. You know, what happens to a boy who is like king shit in Metropolis.
And suddenly he's brought down to
suddenly,
earth.
yeah, and suddenly he's not the big swinging dick any longer. He can't even play, first string on the football team. He's in the shadow of not just his brother, but his father, Lois, everyone has something special. Natalie can build shit.
And think about the element that basically they've been doing with Jonathan's dialogue. He's always talking about leaving Smallville. He's the only one out of the family that basically says, I got to get out. I have to go back to Metropolis, or I have to get out of Smallville.
Which, on one hand, it's interesting that he called her out on it, and maybe that was just because of the circumstances of this kid being such a bully towards him. But maybe had that not been the case, to your point, David, he is not necessarily thrilled about being here. He would rather not be here. Another direction they could have taken, or maybe they take, is he gets involved in it to get that upper hand.
Well, didn't he ask for the drugs?
Yeah, he basically told her that he wasn't going to actually rat her out. He wanted to buy the drugs from her.
Yeah.
What he should be doing is lines off of her ass.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, did you fuck him too? That's what I'd ask.
But that's where I'm like going.
What's that guy's name? The stupid loser jock.
I don't know.
I forgot.
He's a meathead, though.
But that's where I'm like going. That storyline, they have to be really careful because it's very easy to go into, stereotypical writing when it comes to, oh, this character has to deal with drug use.
And it's not just. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
I was gonna say yes, but because of the type of drug that this is, it could be too early in the season to do that. Mm-hmm. But if they slow roll it, he could become something that they have to deal with, not just from a drug standpoint, but if he's sitting there getting hopped up on this Kryptonian, crack, and then he starts becoming villainous in nature or doing things, that could be an interesting arc.
Oh, yeah. Well, think about this. I thought about it, and where it could lead to really interesting story elements is like, if no one, this entire season, no one finds out that Jonathan is taking these drugs for superpowers. They just think that, oh, his superpowers are coming into effect, and Jonathan plays it up and basically says, oh, my powers are coming in, so cool, all right, everyone's happy.
That could be an interesting storyline, especially because he is Kryptonian.
Yeah.
We don't know how that may or may not affect him because of what DNA he has. It could go sideways.
And that could lead into really cool story arcs that tie with Jordan's problems with trust.
Okay, so you guys make it sound better. You guys sold me on it. I'm okay with it. The thing is, I think for me is, it seems like every DC show, there's some drug.
Yes. And that's why I say they have to be careful.
And I'm like, listen, you guys tell me there's, out of all the decades of comic book stories, you can't pull something else besides some fucking drug that someone's going to use to get power. They do this in literally every show I have watched over the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, I mean, just it's art mimicking life.
Yeah. Look at
no one's taking drugs and getting powerful. We're getting drugs and doing drugs and being stupid. No?
Well, I don't know. I thought there was people when they were taking all that crocodile shit, they were getting all amped up and
yeah, and then
ripping
their
people's
body
arms
parts
off.
fall off. That's not, what type of party is that? That's not a party.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm gonna get so high right now, and then my dick's gonna fall off. Oh,
yeah.
All right. So, final thoughts. I like the episode. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to give the episode an 85% on the RMD score. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, that's exactly my number 2. I felt it was super strong bounce back from last week. I rated it super low, but for me, I walked away smiling. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
And as funny as it sounds, I'm in the same. I actually have the same score as you guys.
Okay, so 85%.
85 all around because it's a great bounce back from like what. I remember that I gave last episode a 60.
You gave it 63.
I was 60.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, this was a strong comeback. Let's see if they can keep going.
Yeah. All right. I want to thank everyone for listening. We will be back next week as well. Stay tuned. Later.
Bye-bye.